Okay, welcome to day 24. Everybody should have their blue sheet out. Take a few minutes, pause the video, and work on the bell ringer. And when you're done, then you can unpause and we will check our answers. Okay, welcome back. In this one, they're asking for the midpoint of the line with the coordinates listed. And then they're also wanting the midpoint of this line. So if we look at this line, you've got here you've got 2 plus -5 divided by 2 gives us -3/2, and then -1 plus 4 gives us 3 divided by 2. So we have -3/2, 3/2. Now, one thing I don't like about this problem, and you notice it once the answers are on here, it should be cut off. This should be cut off, and it should have a big endpoint here. Let me cut these off. Yeah, the way they've calculated it, you should have endpoints sitting right here at -4, 0, and 5, or 0,5. And so when we find the midpoint, that midpoint is going to be sitting right about here at -2, 5.5, or 2.5. Okay, so today we're going to review FOIL and the distance formula in algebra. FOIL is an acronym that stands for first, outside, inside, last. This says outer, inner. I always was taught outside, inside. You say potato, I say potato. It's the same thing. Okay. We use the FOIL method when we're multiplying two binomials. Now you're probably saying, what is a binomial? A binomial is something that has two terms, like x plus 2. In its simplest form, this is the best we can get. There's two terms. 2 means bi. This is a binomial, two numbers. The FOIL technique helps you to remember how to multiply the components together. So here's an example. Again, two terms, binomial, two terms, binomial. So we want to multiply these together. So the first thing we do is we multiply the first numbers, x times x. Then we do the outside, the FOIL, x times -2. Then we do inside, 3 times x, and then the last, +3 times -2. Now let's go through and simplify these. X squared minus 2x plus 3x minus 6. We can combine like terms here in the middle to get x squared plus x minus 6. This is called a trinomial because there's 3 terms. In its simplest form, we have 3 terms. Trinomial. A little extra for you there. Now, the distance formula. Sometimes we need to know how long the line is, and we'll use the distance formula. And the distance formula was actually created from the Pythagorean Theorem. We did a whole lot with modulus and vectors and stuff. And in that, we drew a right triangle to find out how long the vector was. It's the same thing here. We can take a line, create a right triangle, and use Pythagorean Theorem to find out how long that line is. And that's where our distance formula comes from. We've got some squares and some square roots because you can't have a negative distance. Can't run -2 miles. So here is our distance formula. It is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And what you're doing here is, if you have this line, let me change color. Then if we create this right triangle here so that we can do a squared plus b squared is c squared, this x1 minus x2 tells us the length of this side. That's what this is doing. It's telling us the length of this side. And so this y2 This is y2. And this is y1. Finding out the difference between these two is going to tell us the height of it. So that's why we do y2 minus y1 to find that length. So then it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We don't want this to be squared, so we get rid of the squared and take the square root over here. Now, I am going to show you a different way that I do the distance formula. It follows the same rule, but I'm just not writing it out as formally as they do it because it's tedious. It takes a lot of time. And on the ACT, I'm looking for doing it in as little time as possible. Okay. So we're going to start with a line segment from our bell ringer, and we're going to try to determine how long it is. Okay. So here we go. We want to find out the distance. We can do that by making a right triangle here. I'm going to go on ahead and color it in so you can see it a little bit better. And we can actually count. Y2 minus y1 gives us a length of 5 here. And then x2 minus x1 gives us a length of, actually, -4. This is why we're going to square it, okay? Because it should be +4. Now we're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared, 5, times 5 is 25. B, -4 times -4 is 16. That's why we square it, to get rid of any of those negatives. And that's going to give us c squared. So 25 plus 16, take the square root of it, that's the length of c. And that's where we get this formula here. And take the square root of both sides. There's your distance formula. It's exactly how it's proven. Let's look at our ACT example here. Okay. Again, pause the video for a moment. I want you to work it out and see if you get the answer. And then unpause and we will work it out. Okay, welcome back. Now, I can tell you I can answer this one without even picking up a pencil. And you're going to go, yeah, but you used to teach math. No, math students can too. And you've been given the knowledge to answer this without picking up a pencil in Algebra 1. This is one of your special cases. There's 3 special case binomial times binomial cases. This one is an A plus, oh no, sorry. This is where you've got a minus B times an A plus B, because those are the same. That's A, that's B. And this ends up equaling A squared minus B squared. Have it memorized. Now you can FOIL this out and you're going to get the exact same answer. But this is a shortcut. This is like a cheat in a video game. So I know it's going to be 16n squared. Let's get rid of these guys. Minus, what's 3 times 3? 9. M squared times m squared, m to the 4th. So the answer is A. Now, if you didn't remember how to do this one, you can see you always have the option to FOIL it out, and you're going to get the exact same answer. Okay, so 4 questions. Set 4 minutes on the timer, and then get back with me when you are done answering the 4 questions. And go. All right, everybody's back. Let's look at these answers and see how you did. Here's our first one. We've got a binomial times a binomial. I've got to do FOIL. So let's multiply the first 2 terms. 5y times y gives me 5y squared. Now let's do the outside. -3 times 5y gives me -15y. Inside, +2 times y gives me +2y. I'm already noticing I can combine those two. And then our last ones are going to be positive 2 times negative 3, which gives me a minus 6. So let's combine these two guys here because we want it to be simple. So 5y squared minus 13y, because negative 15 plus 2 gives me negative 13, minus 6. So that means our answer is D. Yes, D. Now the second one, I instantly know the answer too. I mean, I can tell you right now, it's 9x squared plus 30x plus 25. Yeah. And you're going to go, oh, you already knew the answer. No, I didn't. I calculated it. Because this is another special case. This is an A plus B squared. And that always multiplies out to be A squared plus 2 times A times B plus B squared. And again, I love memorizing these things. I have a really good memory, and it's like a cheat. If it helps me go faster and not have to write a bunch of stuff down, I'm all for memorizing it. But if not, then you can FOIL it out. You can simply do 3x plus 5, times 3x plus 5. 3x times 3x is going to give me 9x squared. That can help you eliminate 2 right there. The outside gives me 15x. The inside is going to give me 15x. And then the last, 5 times 5 is 25. And you can see these two combine to 30x. Hence K. This last one says the length of a rectangular garden is 2 feet less than the length of the house, and the width of the house, blah, blah, blah. I know. I've already said it, and I'm like, whoo, you've lost me. So I know I've got a rectangular garden, and I've got a house. So here, let's draw the length of the house, and then here is the garden. Okay, so in the house, we've got length and width. So the length in the house, okay, the length of the rectangular garden is 2 feet less than the length of the house. So it will be length minus 2. The width of the garden is 5 feet less than half the length of the house. So the length divided by 2, okay, minus 5. Here's my other one. I have 2 binomials. We know the formula for area of a rectangle is length times width, so we need to multiply these two together. So let's do that, okay? Hopefully you've got it written down because I'm going to erase and I'm going to start all over again, okay? I'm going to change pen colors and erase. So we had length minus 2 times length divided by 2 minus 5. And again, we're just going to FOIL. Okay. Now, this is one that's really good. If you go down here and you look in your answers, they didn't leave it in fractions. So you could change this to 0.5L and use your calculator. So length times 0.5 length is going to give me 0.5L squared. I noticed they're using X, so maybe I want to change these to an X. I know it's not D and E. Now I've got here negative 5L, but I'm going to go ahead and change it to an X because of the answers. Negative 2 times half an L is going to give me negative 1L, or X. Oops. And then negative 2 times 5 gives me plus 10. And honestly, right here, I can eliminate this one. I know there's going to be something in the middle, so my answer is A, because negative 5 plus negative 1L gives me negative 6L. Now, here's the distance formula. And I'm going to show you my way of doing this. The book is going to say, oops, it did. The book is going to have you go here and do negative 2 minus 1 squared plus negative 6 minus 3 squared, and ask you to do all of that. Okay, and that's it. It works. I do this exact same method, exact same steps, but I just set it up differently. And students tend to tell me they like that way better. So what I do first is I take my 2 coordinates and I stack them. Because this is how I remember doing elementary addition and subtraction. You stack it. One be on top, one be on the bottom. So I stack them, and then I subtract them. We're doing a lot of S's here. Stack, subtract. Negative 6 minus 3 is going to give me negative 9. 2 minus 1 gives me 1. So I stack it, subtract it. Now I'm going to square each one of these. Well, negative 9 squared gives me 81. 1 squared gives me 1. So I have SSS. Stack, subtract, square, and this means I'm going to add them together. Stack, SSS, and I get 82. The last is another S. Triple S and S. Stack, subtract, square, and add a square root. Square root of 82. Yep. If you have any questions on those, I'll be happy to work with you some more on distance formula because it's one I really don't like to do. So I tried to find a way to make it a little bit easier and a little faster. Okay. Complete your exit ticket. The exit ticket for day 24. This is a pretty easy one. This one's asking you, is x plus 3 squared equal to x squared plus 9? And we went over. If this is x plus 3 squared, this should be x plus 3 times x plus 3, and you should use FOIL. You should FOIL these two. And when you do the first outside, inside, last, take that answer and compare it to x squared plus 9 and see if they match. If they do, yes, y, and your math can be the y, or no, y. And if you do the math, again, that's an explanation if you do the math. So happy calculating and see you tomorrow.